You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth!
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth!
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
Well, today I decided that in lieu of something to make me really angry to rant about, that I would take this time to do what we're going to call Drug War Research 101. And that is some of the tricks of the trade that I've learned over the past 5 years of doing my various drug war research for presentations and charts and stats and maps that I put together, and teaching you guys out there in the marijuana activism community how to find some of this stuff. Some of it may be a little basic, but I'm not going to assume that you know everything. I'm going to start from the beginning and just show you piece by piece how to put some of this stuff together. So today, I thought we'd take a look at the Drug Enforcement Administration, or as I like to call it, the Drug Employment Agency. Now, the DEA is in charge of making sure that substances are controlled. And this comes under the Controlled Substances Act, 1970. And the first thing we should learn about the DEA is just exactly what these substances are. You may have heard people talk about these on various shows, Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3, and so forth. So let's take a look at the DEA's Office of Diversion Control, and I'm going to paste these links into our chat room as well if you want to follow along, so you can collect these links. Let me get the screen set for this as well, and we'll switch over to the Office of Diversion Control website right here. And at the Office of Diversion Control, this is a website from the DEA. It's at deadiversion.usdoj.gov. And I'll see if I can slip that into the chat room real quick. So if you want to follow along at home. And as you go through it, this is their page on the Controlled Substances Schedules. And this is under the Controlled Substances Act of 1970, as I mentioned earlier. And if you really want to get into the entire list, right there, smack dab in the middle, is a list of the controlled substances in alphabetical order. So if that's what you're looking for, you just want to know every single one of them. There they are. You got something that's on your menu that you want to enjoy for the weekend. You're not sure if it's illegal. The place to go, I guess, would be this list with the DEA's controlled substances. But instead of going through all of them, I thought it'd be quicker for us to just go down here to the list of controlled substances. Now, in the list of the controlled substances, the Controlled Substances Act was 21 U.S.C. 801 in 1970. There are approximately 160 substances that have been added, removed, or transferred on this schedule. Now, this list that you get from the DEA's website is not a comprehensive list of all possible controlled substances. This is an important note. A substance need not be listed as a controlled substance to be treated as a Schedule I substance for criminal prosecution. A controlled substance analog is a substance which is intended for human consumption and is structurally or pharmacologically substantially similar to, or is represented as being similar to, a Schedule I or Schedule II substance and is not an approved medication in the United States. So let me boil that down. If you've got something that is very similar to marijuana, or you've got something that you say is similar to marijuana, and you give it to someone to consume, you've just given them a Schedule I substance. People have actually been prosecuted for selling bags of oregano this way. But anyway, as we scroll down the page, you'll find the definition of our controlled substances schedules. And I always find these very interesting to go over, and I think it's important that we all understand exactly what they're saying here when they say that marijuana is a Schedule I drug. Schedule I drugs have no currently accepted medical use in the United States. Right? Marijuana has no currently accepted medical use in the United States. Nobody in the United States accepts marijuana for medical use, other than 18 states in the District of Columbia. But other than that, nobody in the United States accepts the medical use of marijuana. They also must have a lack of accepted safety for use under medical supervision. You know, like people might overdose from it, or people might develop severe reactions to it, like marijuana, right? That belongs in Schedule 1 because there's no safety under medical supervision? Not. And Schedule 1 substances must also have a high potential for abuse. So, in this list includes heroin, LSD, peyote, methylqualone, that's quaaludes, and ecstasy, and marijuana. But as you go down the list, Schedule 2 substances, these are medically acceptable. You can use these. They have a high potential for abuse, but they may lead to severe psychological or physical dependence. So in a sense, a Schedule 2 drug is considered to be a similar danger as a Schedule 1 drug. High potential for abuse, severe psychological or physical dependence. The only difference is Schedule 1s have no medical use, and Schedule 2s do have medical use, and they include drugs like Dilaudid, Demerol, OxyContin, Percocet, fentanyl, morphine, opium, codeine, Dexedrine, Adderall, Ritalin, and yes, folks, methamphetamine. All have medical use in the United States, and you'll notice how many of those have a little registered trademark next to them. That's another difference between Schedule 2 and Schedule 1 drugs, that little circle with an R around it. R with a circle around it, excuse me. Schedule 3 drugs, potential for abuse less than Schedule 1 or Schedule 2, and moderate or low physical dependence, or high psychological dependence. Schedule 3 drugs include Vicodin, Tylenol with codeine, ketamine, that's special K, by the way, and anabolic steroids. And also on Schedule 3 are Marinol pills, Dronabinol, a synthetic THC suspended in a sesame oil capsule. That, for some reason, has low to moderate physical dependence, whereas marijuana, the herb by itself, high physical dependence, high psychological dependence, and cannot be used for medicine. As we continue, Schedule 4 are substances that are even lower potential of abuse than Schedule 3. These include Xanax, Klonopin, Valium, Ativan, and Halcyon. Less potential for psychological dependence and abuse than marijuana, Xanax and Valium. And Schedule 5, the lowest potential for abuse relative to the substances listed in Schedule 4, and consists primarily of preparations containing limited quantities of certain narcotics. For example, cough preparations with codeine, like Robitussin AC or Phenergen with codeine. Notably missing from the list of controlled substances would be alcohol and nicotine. Although they have no medical value in the United States and a high potential for psychological and physical dependence, they are not on our list of controlled substances. Now, when the DEA puts all this information in your face, it's also important to take a look at why they put this information out there, why they have this mission to enforce the Controlled Substances Act. And you can find this out directly from the DEA's page. This is at justice.gov/DEA. And I want to get to this one page on Tough Work, Vital Mission, the facts about the DEA. And you'll learn why it is so difficult for us to overturn prohibition when you discover that the DEA's annual budget is $3 billion. $3 billion, with 226 offices across the United States, 86 offices in 67 countries around the world, employing 10,000 men and women. Nearly 5,000 of them are special agents. And for that $3 billion per year investment, the DEA stripped approximately $19.3 billion in revenue from drug trafficking organizations. Not a bad investment for a government program. $3 billion in, $19 billion out. Sounds pretty, or got that backwards. $3 billion out, $19 billion in. Still does pretty good for the DEA. Now, for the DEA, they also list their successes. I want to find that DEA success top 10 success sheet that they had, to let us know what a great job they're doing. See if I can find this. It's under their statistics and facts, which is just a link on their page, statistics and facts here. And the little sheet that's entitled 2011 Successes in the Fight Against Drugs. On this sheet, they trumpet their successes in the fight against drugs, which they say 650,000 fewer teenagers used illicit drugs last year than a decade earlier, a 15% decline. Current use of marijuana by teens has dropped 7%, and they're saying this is from 2000 to 2011. Now that pales in comparison to meth, which has dropped 67%, ecstasy, which has dropped 42%, cocaine, which has dropped 48%, crack cocaine, which has dropped 50%, steroids, which has dropped 44%, and LSD, which has dropped 50%. Yes, marijuana went down a whopping 7%. Great job, DEA. That's what you're getting for your $3 billion investment. But whenever you get a statistic from the DEA, it's very important to take it with a grain of salt, understanding that they have a $3 billion budget that they have to maintain. They're trying to claim success by all this massive drug use drop, as if what they're doing now is any different than what they were doing in the decade of the 90s or the 80s or the 70s. It's all still prohibition. Let's take a look at the actual figures. And what's really nice about this is the DEA provides you a link to the very source of information that will debunk their 2011 successes. Scrolling down just a little further on the page, you'll find Monitoring the Future. This is the national survey results on drug use when they survey 8th, 10th, and 12th graders. Those would be the teens, right? For whom marijuana use has dropped 7%, right? You'll get a warning that you're going to a new page for Monitoring the Future. And you can also find Monitoring the Future at monitoringthefuture.org. You don't have to go through the DEA site to get there, but monitoringthefuture.org. And they'll have tables and figures, the most recent tables and figures from their survey. Going to the data tables and figures, we can get new 2012 data on drug trends and tobacco use trends. We'll start with drug use trends. All sorts of information here. Trends in annual use, daily use, synthetic marijuana use, alcohol, all sorts of information there for you if you're just interested in finding it. Have to kill the Libremator. Too much stuff going on in the background. So let's take a look, because remember the DEA said that from 2000 to 2011, we've seen a 7% drop in marijuana use among our teens. Is that true or not? Well, let's see what the annual use figures look like. Annual use figures are shown on the left-hand side here, and I'll just blow that up nice and large for us. 8th graders in green, 10th graders in blue, 12th graders in red. The year 2000 is about right there. And as you can see, it doesn't look like we've seen very much of a change in annual use, at least amongst the 12th graders. There was a dip through the 2000s, but it's climbed back up recently. Similarly with the 10th graders and the 8th graders, although the 8th graders do look a little bit lower than they were. But none of these figures are lower than they were in 1992, when they were significantly lower. And wasn't that the same DEA doing the job back then? Or the 12th grade figures dating all the way back to 1979, when 50% of high school seniors had tried marijuana. In that year, those have declined significantly and are nowhere near back to where they were back in 1979. So have we really seen a drop in use by kids? Well, perhaps annual use isn't the right metric. Perhaps we should look in trends of daily use. Figure 2. And when we look at trends of daily use, 8th, 10th, and 12th graders, we actually find there are more daily marijuana smokers amongst 12th graders now than from the year 2000. There's slightly fewer 10th grade smokers and slightly fewer 8th grade smokers. So has marijuana use by teens actually dropped by the 7% the DEA claims? When you look at this wonderful chart, any illicit drug other than marijuana, you find something very interesting. In the case of other illicit drugs, use is actually going down. Kids are actually using less drugs now. So never trust what you're hearing directly from the DEA, especially if it involves statistics. Look for yourself. Every other Tuesday, we're going to do another one of these lessons. We're going to look through some websites, show you how to find the information to do the debunking yourself. Make 420radio.org your source for activist online training. That's all the time we got for today. Stay tuned for hour 2. We're hanging out with Brian the Red, just chewing the fat and chilling out. Tune in later tonight for a different view with Jen and Iva. And coming up next, our first VIP, actually it's not VIP, it's Viper Hour, Movie Madness Night. We showed Reefer Madness and went all MST3K on it. It was a lot of fun. We'll do one of those next Monday as well. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it,